Hey everybody, welcome. This is a 2020 Northwest MVP Open at Heider's Hike. I'm Scott Withers, here with first-time commentary guy, DJ Herrington. DJ, how you doing tonight?
Doing well, excited to do some commentary.
Yeah, so we are here on behalf of CH Sports. You saw a little screen with the sponsors for the event real quickly, but I know we're going to get right into coverage. You've got myself, Terran Ferguson, Lewis Nava, and Dane Jones. So Terran and Dane both out of the greater Salem area in Oregon. Lewis out of the Portland area, and then I'm a little south in Albany. But we're starting on hole 7. DJ, why don't you tell us about hole 7 to get going here?
So hole 7 is an uphill par 3, really small gap. A lot of players elect to choose to throw a forehand roller or the flex roller play. I believe we're going to see Lewis throw a backhand here, and it's just a super tight gap. You're trying to get it up the hill just to get a look, try to get in the circle.
Yeah, so I'm going to lead off the box. I have my Champ Firebird out here, and this basket got moved a little. We got some new buckets on this course, and I've traditionally went forehand roller here, but the basket moved a little to the right. Looked like the forehand was the play and was able to get one through the gap.
We're going to see Lewis line up a backhand here. And Lewis peers the gap. He really put a good line on that one, gets it up there for a look.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen Lewis play, he's almost all backhand. Dane is going to go with the more traditional forehand roller route, and it ends up on the right. Not a great release, but when you don't hit any trees here at 200 feet, the hole's so short that you're just going to make par. Terran also finds himself over on the right. You're going to see a theme on this course, and it is there is trees on every hole, and they're all in play.
Yeah, you really do not want to get off the fairway here as Dane throws his up shot and hits the tree. Rollouts on this hole they happen almost every time if you don't land your disc flat, and he was lucky for Abbott to stop there.
So it probably took Terran 15 minutes to get in to figure out how to throw this shot. Not really that long, but it felt like that long on our first hole. And then he's able to just kind of scramble up. But, you know, taking a 3 on this is okay. You want the 2, and Lewis is sitting at about 30 feet here with a chance.
Oh, and Lewis hits the tree and gets the lucky stump there to not roll all the way back down the hill.
And Dane looks like he has the same branch in the way, and it is something that putting on this property you deal with all the time. There's trees, there's limbs, there's so much elevation out here that the camera never really does justice to the elevation on a course. But I feel like hopefully on this one, as we watch this round unfold, as you see Terran knock in his par putt after pretending he's Bigfoot and running through some trees, you know, the elevation on this course is so extreme that I think it will show on camera a little better.
Yeah, I think it should. There's a lot of uphill holes, and there's a lot of big drop-offs where rollouts are very likely.
And that was my birdie putt. So we'll tap in to be the only 2 in the card. Lewis makes his 3. Dane makes a 4, and Terran made a good putt for 3 there to get through our first hole. It doesn't get easier, though. You move from one tricky shot to another on this private course, which is just outside of Amity, Oregon, probably 25 minutes west of I-5, outside of kind of the Woodburn or just southern Portland area. So why don't you tell us about hole 8 here, DJ? What are you trying to do on this one?
So hole 8, I'm trying to throw a T-bird or something kind of semi-stable on an anti-angle and just have it kind of ride out slowly. I think you're probably trying to do the same thing there, and you just kind of grip locked it a little bit, hit the trees. A lot of players elect to throw a forehand here up the hill. It's kind of easier to get the elevation right. You see Lewis throwing the forehand here. He kind of gets right into that collection zone if you don't turn it over enough.
Yeah, Lewis going backhand, probably T-bird there. I think that's what Terran's also throwing. I threw TL3. Terran does the same thing I did and yanks it over to the right. And when you kick left over there, you're really just crossing your fingers and hoping that you have any form of an upshot. Dane's going to show you the pretty traditional actual sidearm line on this. And before these new baskets got put in, I feel like the basket was maybe 10 or 15 feet shorter, and I was trying the sidearm a little bit. But for me to get it all the way up there, this hole's 240 and probably plays like it's 340. It's so uphill that the backhand's the only way that I'm going to get one there.
Yeah, absolutely. After they put the new baskets in, they pushed it back probably 25, 30 feet. And you see Terran throwing his upshot here. He hits the tree, gives himself about a 35, 40 footer up the hill. It's going to be a tough getting up and down from there.
And anytime you see a player lining up a Roadrunner Tomahawk on the second shot on a 240-foot hole, you know it's probably not a great spot, and it wasn't. Fortunately, was able to get it out to about 30 feet. And you can see the difference between Lewis didn't really hit a tree, and this is where he ends up, where he just got the simple pitch up, as opposed to Terran and I that were trying to throw trick shots to get up. And Terran's left with, what, a 35-footer here uphill?
Yeah, I think the tree's about 35. And he leaves it just short left, and that's really hard to get the elevation change because the pole is at his head. I mean, he's putting super high uphill.
Yeah,
and that's a good putt by you.
Yeah, able to birdie the first hole and then make a really good par save on the second hole. And we talked about it kind of after we were done playing this first round, and we were like, I don't know if I'd ever want to start on hole 7 out here again because you're just immediately in the gauntlet, and there's no warm-up. There's no warm-up to find any form of a rhythm. It's just immediate wooded hole, wooded hole, wooded hole, wooded hole, and you play that way for about 10 of them, and then you start to get in the open a little more. But tough place to start. Being 1 under through 2 is not bad. I know Lewis is at even after he parred both, and then both Terran and Dane are sitting at 1 over par. So we're going to move on to hole 9, and you want to talk about elevation. Here we go again.
Yeah, so hole 9 is a doozy. It's short, and you'll be able to see the elevation on here. You're throwing, what are you throwing here?
Yeah, Color Glow Gator. That was one of the 2020 ones. So, or regular Glow Gator, excuse me. It's one of the 2020 new ones. And Lewis is going to try probably the silliest shot you will ever see in a hole like this.
And Lewis electing to throw the backhand roller here, which is a crazy play. A lot of players elect to choose to throw the forehand and try to throw it into the hill because this is a very steep slope, and you can roll away 100 feet into the other fairway on this hole.
Dane gets real lucky through the left side. Lewis is throwing an XD that weighs probably 135 grams at this point. He said it was 148 or something at one point. There's no way it weighs that now. And then Terran tries the same thing that I did. We're not too far off of the line on that, but the second that you end up over here, now you can look kind of at the direction that you have to putt even to lay up on this hole. It's so sloped.
Yeah, you were not going towards the basket at all there. And Terran cashing in his probably 25, 30 footer there. It's a good putt.
We were talking a couple weekends ago about bad shot birdies. I think you and I may have been playing together, and we were talking about how many bad shot birdies can you get in the course of a round. And Terran just had one there, and those are shots that are offline, but you get a good kick and are able to capitalize on the putt. And you see Dane do the same thing. Lewis's roller I would not consider a bad shot. I mean, it's kind of a silly play, but it worked. He got all the way down there, and he's able to make his birdie. And this will, I guarantee, be the only card out of everyone that played this day to be 3 under par on this hole.
Absolutely.
Yeah, look at that.
This is always the hole where we're like, hey, I'll give you $1 if you go for it. Like, let's see that 45 footer down the hill.
Yeah, we watched the last tournament out here was a few months ago, right before the quarantine shut everyone down. But I watched Chris Nelson, who's a 1,013 rated player out of Portland. I watched him lay up from like 33 feet because he just didn't want anything to do with it.
Oof. And that's always going to get a lot of scuffle from the Oregon guys. You can't lay up on those easy putts. You're going to get a lot of feedback. And hole 10 here is a par 4. It's 420 feet. There's a lot of trees in play, and there's a Mando probably about 3/4 away down the field that stops you from going onto 12's tee box. A lot of players have to throw the straight shot to a little bit of ante that flexes. This is a hole like a par 4 that you can get if you get a perfect shot, but there's so many trees in the way.
Yeah, you're right. It's definitely a par 4 that you can eagle, but at the same time, Terran is in a bad spot there. He does not make the Mando. You can see the red sign on the left side of the tee box, or on the left side of your screen. I mean, he does not make the Mando, but he's so close to it that it's going to be really tough to get around that thing and still be in play. I've traditionally thrown driver here. For some reason this day I decided to go with a Color Glow MD3, and you've got to hit the gap. The right kick is a lot better than left, and it does leave you the opportunity to throw a forehand roller or something similar, but it's not where you want to be.
Absolutely. You want to be up at the crest of the hill, have a look down at the basket to try to get a 3 on this hole.
Dane, after a pretty good drive, also having to throw a forehand roller, and I think that's kind of the theme of this course is if you get off the beaten path, you're going to be throwing a forehand roller to get back into play.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I started on hole 10 both rounds, actually, and it was forehand roller, forehand roller, forehand roller. It was a tough go on this day.
Yeah, Lewis, good drive, gets up to the crest, then throws way too straight. You know, there's a lot of trees and stuff, throws way too straight, but he does have a putt for birdie still, and I'm in full scramble mode here. Colin did a good job to get behind me to show the actual size of this gap. I think it looked smaller in person because of the angle that I was at, but able to sneak that Color Glow Gator through and take that 20 or 25 footer for par.
Yeah, and that's your bread and butter right there. Those forehand up shots, they're pretty automatic.
Yeah, we got Terran. I assume this is for birdie because he threw a really, really good second shot. Comes up a little short, and he'll take his tap in 4 and move on. Lewis is in the woods over here.
Yeah, Lewis is going to have a tricky putt from in here.
He stares it down, gets the crouch, and throws his
Ugh.
XD just off the left side of the chain. So he'll take a par also.
That was Dane for his par.
Yep. Terran tapping in. Stealing that par after a bad drive, which always feels good on this one. And it's weird because Lewis and Dane both threw really good drives. Terran and I threw drives that were offline, and then we all take the same score and move on this one. So it's the first of 2 par 4s on this course, and they both kind of have the same theme, and it's tough, wooded, short, but ones that you can sneak up and grab a 5 or a 6 real quick and send your scorecard the wrong way. So getting off it with the par is not the end of the world. But now we're going to move on to the shortest hole in the course, hole 11, 160 feet. There's 2 lines here, DJ. Why don't you tell us about them?
So there's 2 lines. You can throw forehand or backhand straight and have it scuttle down the hill, or you'll see the locals who play this course a lot throw a big hyzer on the right side with a mid-range that's stable that tends to land better on the angle of where the basket is at. I'm yet to figure out that line. I haven't tried it yet, but the people that play there all the time tend to throw it.
Yeah, and you're not going to see anyone on our card take the Hyzer line, which I feel is like the more popular one. But Terran realized that he can just jump putt far enough for it to not matter. And if you haven't played with Terran before, Terran's a big, strong guy, and he's really athletic. It doesn't surprise me that he can stand there and just create that much spin to be able to get down in putting range. I'm going Glow Gator again, and look how soft that shot is. I mean, it's truly just an upshot on this hole. And I hit next to the basket, get a little roll down as Kaylee's down there spotting just to break my heart and tell me I rolled down the hill.
Yeah, and I try to land it as straight as possible. Oh my goodness, as you see, Dane just smashed like a 70-footer down the hill.
Yeah, we better get a replay on that one. That thing
Wow.
probably stays in the air for like 3 or 4 full seconds. And there is nothing, if he airballs that, if it doesn't hit anything, it is 50 or 60 feet down the hill.
Wow. Great putt. And how do you follow that up? Lewis hits the tree behind the basket there, luckily, and looks like he settles instead of rolls down the hill.
And then Terran, real good spin putter. This is quite a bit downhill, and he's in a pretty extreme straddle here, and I know it's not something he's very comfortable with. And as
Oh,
we're talking about, if you airball that putt, it is gone. And look where he ends up on this.
and that is a tough spot. He's just pitching out, hoping to get out of there, honestly, and line up a 35-footer to save his 3 there, or 4.
Yeah, I was probably upper 20s and feet away from the basket there. It wasn't a tap in. And another one, you talk about elevation. I would almost guess that Terran's head right now from 20 feet is at the bottom of the pole. So it does play a part.
Great bogey save there. Great bogey save.
Yep, but go back to Dane's putt. That putt's so dangerous. And he threw it in like it was nothing. Had the right spin, had the right height, the right speed. It would have hit the tree behind it. If not, Lewis gives a thumbs up as he's happy with his par after his good drive, not great putt. But then Dane, that's just so sick from there.
I think Dane just saw a tree on the left side of the basket, tree on the right. If he misses either way, he's hoping that he hits one. Dane's a very much of a feel player. You know, if he's feeling it, he's going to go for it. And, you know, sometimes he makes them.
Yeah, so we step up on hole 12 here, which is the harder of the 2 par 4s, I think. The drive is super hard, and Dane just throws it all the way down the tunnel and is entering a stretch of holes here where if you get hot, you can do some damage. And with that birdie on 11 and that great drive on 12, he's put himself in a good position.
Absolutely, and he threw driver there for sure. As Lewis does a very common theme there and hits one of the first trees, and it's real hard to get up and down on this hole. You're going to see probably a couple more forehand rollers.
And I take a line that no one else even thinks about on this hole every time, and this was the worst I've probably ever thrown it. There's a high gap way up there that I take a super flippy Roadrunner and basically try to throw a backhand roller, and if I hit it right, I can actually fly it past all of this initial tunnel of trees and then crash down somewhere to have a pitch up. Did not do it this time. I'm going to be in the wrong fairway. And then we watch Terran do the same thing Dane does, basically. To get 2 forehands down there that clean on this hole is super impressive.
Absolutely, and it can be done. As you can see, it's not hard. The gap is just so small off the tee.
Yeah, what do you think? How far do you think the gap is at its narrowest going down that tunnel? You think it's more or less than 15 feet?
I think the initial gap coming off of the tee box is probably about 15 feet, and then it widens up in the middle of the fairway.
Yeah. I've been over on that side a few times, usually a little farther with that sky roller attempt. It plays up the next fairway, so it's actually not that bad. I was able to throw a forehand roller and get a putt out of it. Lewis is in full scramble mode at this point. Hits a tree, kicks left, and he's looking at a probably 100-footer, 90-footer left to save par.
And that is not a bad look on this hole because you can see some big numbers. You can planko back and forth in between the fairway there, and I think that he lays up and he's going to have a good look for his 4.
Yeah, I think it'll be a bogey for Lewis because he hacked around up top a little bit. Terran with a great drive and then throws his spin putt a little wide. Dane steps up and buries the eagle putt.
Cashes it in. Wow. Look at this.
Yeah, back-to-back replays for Dane. Both putts absolutely as pure as it gets. And he's 3 under through 2 holes that can get you in a lot of trouble. I've got this for birdie. And how do you putt after Dane just drains another huge one that's an eagle putt this time?
Yeah, you're just going through your head. Come on, like, don't get big putted here. Like, put this thing in. And you miss it just left there. It's a tough to putt after as a guy makes a 90-footer right before you, and you want to make it so bad.
Yeah, and that's par's a par on this one. Parring those 3 holes, you're not really losing anything. I mean, I lost 3 strokes to Dane in those those 3 holes, but it's not, I don't know, it's not something that you really worry too much about. You can still put up good rounds out here at Heider's. Being even through those 3, being 3 down through those 2 is just filthy.
Yeah, that's very impressive.
So we're moving on. 3 of us are at even. I think I might be at 1 under at this point from that first birdie. And then Dane is at 3 under. And we move into another shorty with elevation and a double mando. You can see the red signs. Dane steps up and throws forehand right through the heart of him to the right side and gets himself a putt out of it.
Yeah, and you'll see a lot of forehands on this hole. I think it's just easier to hit the double mando. You're looking at the gap the whole way. And Terran gets it up there. Looks like he gets it in the circle.
Yeah, this is a hole that I was throwing forehand on for a while and then just kept missing the mando. So I decided to throw a thumber because it is easier for me to hit the initial gap. However, that one hit and rolled quite a ways down the hill. This one's not as sloped as you might, as some of the other ones are, I guess I could say, but that one took off and rolled quite a ways down the hill.
Yeah, I have not seen that play on this hole. And Lewis throwing the backhand, and he hits the bush that's about 15, 20 feet from the basket and kicks in front of the next tee box here. He's going to be laying up for his 3. Oh,
he takes the Star XD out, throws it forehand, and then we got Dane here from about 35 to keep it moving.
And Dane is feeling it. Wow. And yes, he walks it off. Yeah, you don't need to run that one off, Dane. Just walk that off.
Yeah, at this point, no more expectations. Just strut it in, and I got about a 30-footer uphill.
And that's a good putt there. And Terran lining up what looks to be about a 20, 25-footer. That's a good putt by Terran. He tends to struggle from that distance because he spins the disc so hard that he worries about how fast that he's coming into the basket. So that's good touch by him there to put that one in on the pole.
Yeah, I would agree. He's a super good putter from like that 28 to 40-foot range just because of the style that he putts with. But he can get a little hesitant inside of that because he doesn't want to putt too hard. Kind of the problem that our buddy Ryan Robinson has too, and they're both super good spin putters, but when they get in that 20-foot range, they try to take a little off, and sometimes I think it can get a little shaky. Dane misses left on that one, but gets through enough, and we got Terran. This hole's 325. What are you throwing on this?
I have not birdied this hole in the rounds that I've played. I have been throwing a mid-range on it that is stable and that wants to come back, and I haven't gotten up into the circle. I've made it about to the road there, and it's a tough hole. I think that a lot of players might choose to throw a fairway driver or a distance driver, something that's going to go straight enough and then skip towards the basket.
You can see I had to stop, and that is so common out here. When Shaun Kirk, who is his uncle, Dave Heider, owns this property. When he puts tournaments on out here, he usually limits it to like 36 players, maybe 40 players. The course is so packed in that it's hard to put more than that, and you hear tree hits just consistently all over the property. So, I mean, it's something you just got to reset.
And chains, and someone makes a good putt, and the group goes wild, or someone hits an ace. It's all so close.
Yeah, Lewis with a really good drive. I think he threw T-Bird down that tunnel, maybe Leopard. He's going to be messing with the fence, possibly a little long if it didn't stop. But Dane looks like he threw a really good upshot from about a quarter way up the fairway when his drive was early left out of his hand.
Yeah, and that's definitely a good scramble there as Dane's sitting at 4 under for the round. It'd be really good for him to get up and down for a 3 here.
Yeah, Terran lays up. These are so tricky on this hole. If you can't really tell from the video angle here, but if you go 10 to 15 feet past this basket, maybe not even that, you fall off down to an access road. I would say that's maybe 10 feet in elevation lower than where the basket is, and you can just be faced with a super awkward like straight uphill 10 or 15 footer as we get
As you
the
can
end
see
of Dane's par putt there, but that was a great upshot.
Lewis cashing in his birdie there.
Yeah, we thought he went long. We got up there, and he was actually just about 15 feet short of the basket, and that's one of the best drives we've seen on this. I personally think this basket's about 25, 30 feet farther than it needs to be. The way the hole sets up, you don't see very many birdies on it, and I would guess that in a 30-person open field, this is going to probably play about a half stroke over par, even though it looks like it's pretty open from the tee pad. It's just kind of tough to get a disc to sit on that green.
I agree. I'd love to see a little bit straighter of a shot there. And it's really hard because those last few trees just tend to block out the shots that really do want to get through. And hole 15 here, what's hole 15 like?
Yeah, so we're going to move on to the first kind of open hole on the property, although I tend to find trees a lot on this. It's either a forehand or a backhand turnover. Lewis throws that same, I believe it's a T-bird, straight up there, and that's super pretty in the way it flies. Dane's going to take the little more traditional sidearm route on this hole.
Oh, and Dane hits the first tree there and was lucky enough to land in the middle of the fairway there, so he has a look to get up and down. And Terran also electing to throw the forehand, gets up there for probably a 25-footer.
Yep, the fence is out of bounds on the left, so it is kind of a yard area, but it is OB, so you do have to kind of guard against that. I throw a Firebird. I throw it about 2 feet too high, and it hits a tree and kicks directly down to the right. It didn't go in the fence area, so I'm safe, but now you're going to watch Dane try to get up and down, and does not throw a very good one. And I'm sitting here with a very makeable forehand, even though it's probably 100 feet, just because it's so uphill that you can run it.
Yeah. And that is a spot that I haven't seen anybody go over there. But you get up and down, give it a little go. And this is Dane range right here.
Yeah, but he needs it for par this time. Doesn't come up with it. Yeah. I'm going to take that bogey and go back to 3 down as Lewis has a chance to catch up 2 on Dane here and kind of make it a little more of a battle. Got it.
Good. Great putt up the hill, but there by Lewis.
Terran's stressing over this one. You can tell that's that distance you were talking about for him.
And it's a good putt. Puts it right in the heart of the chains there. It's a good putt.
And then Dane will tap in his 4. I'm going to go up top and clean up my par. And at this point in the round, I'm thinking that I would have preferred to be 4 or 5 under par. I'm sitting at, I believe, 2. I have 2 birdies and no bogeys. So it's like, you're okay, no bogeys, moving on to hole 16. And we're getting out in the open at this point, so you know you can rack up the next 6 or 7 holes if you're doing well. But that's 9 holes, so that's part 1 of our video. So thank you guys for joining. We're going to jump right into part 2, so make sure you click. And then again, a big thank you to AGL Discs, CH Sports, and Hyzer Dyes for sponsoring the video for this Northwest MVP Open. We'll see you guys in part 2.
Catch you on the back 9.